Hi, I'm your screen. There's a comment below messages every day. You're not just limited to asking one question. I'll wait and see if anyone lets me know that they can't hear me, and then we'll get started. Okay, so I haven't heard anything, so I'm going to assume that everyone can hear me, and we'll get started now. So a quick note about me, I am a real lawyer. I have a real life practice. I've been licensed for 7 years in Nevada. You can check me out on Avo, which if you've watched any of the past Super Bowls, you've probably seen that company advertised. I am a little business obsessed, from black market candy sales in middle school to vending companies. I've sold retail on eBay and on my own website. I am a business owner myself. My practice, of course, is my current business. So I understand the struggles of small business owners, having been in a few myself, and I never ask anybody to do anything that I haven't done myself or haven't at least considered doing myself. I grew up in a family business as well, and so that's been something that's made business owners near and dear to my heart. My clients have ranged from huge businesses that are household names all the way to small Amazon affiliate sellers and even entrepreneurs who are just in the planning stages. I worked at a tech firm for a few years, so I got to know the nitty-gritty of the online world, especially various methods of monetizing websites. And so I have a little bit of insight on that, as well as the legal expertise to deal with those situations. So most importantly for me, I like to provide clarity and comfort to business owners with respect to legal topics. And so that's what we're going to cover in this call, especially related to information that most lawyers aren't really willing to share. So I promise in the next 30 minutes to make good use of your time, because I know that time is money. And we're going to debunk 3 legal myths that cost online business owners time and money. I'm going to prepare you for the next time you do face a legal issue with the questions that you should be asking. And I'm going to answer your legal questions today in a way that hopefully makes sense for your business and your budget. So what's the catch? Why am I doing this? Why would I be willing to tell you information that I'm saying other lawyers will not? So a little more about me is that I only recently got back on social media. I had been on a hiatus for a while. And once I got back on, I saw that there were so many online business owners there, especially behind the scenes in Facebook groups, and I just found that fascinating. And I found that lawyers were advertising to these business owners, and some of the information that they were passing on was either just blatantly wrong or definitely not tailored to a small business. And the products they were offering were big and expensive and clunky, starting at what I consider to be super expensive, $1,500 and up. So it made me mad in a way. I found that super shady, actually, that these products that don't really fit the bill were being marketed to small business owners, and I decided to do something about it. So my goal is, if you've ever felt pressure to buy legal products from a lawyer because of scare tactics, that when you leave here today, you will know that you have a resource and at least one lawyer you can come to run these purchases by, and I'll give you the straight advice, even if I'm not going to be making any money from it. And for any of you who are here today that have never felt that pressure, but do have a sense of either knowing you want to cover your legal bases and not being sure what they are, I want you to feel empowered with the resources to figure that out. And this is my career, and getting online made me realize that there's a huge need for straightforward and accurate legal advice. And by getting online and putting myself out there that way, I could reach many more entrepreneurs than I can just sitting in my office here in Las Vegas. So without further ado, let's actually jump into what the myths are. So the number you're seeing on your screen is the average hourly rate of a lawyer in the US. And there's a lot of other numbers I could show you, but I really have one important point to make, and that's that lawyers have an incentive to bill. And in fact, if you're dealing with an associate of a law firm, they have a requirement, a minimum number of hours that they have to bill each year. And so this has sort of fostered this belief and this acceptance that lawyers are going to be super expensive, and the only other alternative is to wing it on your own. That does not have to be true anymore. And, if you again have seen any commercials for LegalZoom, for example, you're seeing that there's a much more DIY spirit for individual matters. It hasn't quite reached businesses yet. And so there are some lawyers like myself trying to change that on a small scale, especially for new and small businesses. But for the most part, yeah, $284, that is outrageous. And that's what it costs. So the first myth is that just that quality legal solutions require lots of money. And it makes sense because certainty with a capital C is a real thing and you can totally buy it. And so you could probably hear the sarcasm in my voice. I used to love the save, spend, or splurge sections in beauty magazines where they would compare similar colors or similar products at different price points. And surprisingly, that's actually a really great way to explain the legal solutions that are available to different businesses. There's not one right decision or any product that every single business needs. Instead, everything is dependent on your particular business, your budget, and kind of what I call your risk personality. So I'm here to tell you that with the right guidance, you can definitely choose to save on your legal stuff for now or forever. And if your business grows or changes, you always have the option to spend more, even splurge at the point that you need to. But you can definitely protect yourself without handing over $1,500 or more for a bunch of templates that may or may not do what you think they're doing, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But if a lawyer is trying to sell you a guaranteed result, this is important. Run far, far away. Because the thing about legal is, in addition to there not being only one right decision, there are almost no guaranteed outcomes. And so if someone is trying to sell you that, they maybe misunderstand or they're selling you a bill of goods. It's all about minimizing risks, but you can't get rid of them all. So when I work with clients, I get them to good enough so that they can get back to working in their business, which is where they can implement the business practices that help keep business owners out of trouble in the first place. Not everything's a legal problem. And you may have heard the saying that lawyers are like hammers and everything is a nail. A lot of issues my clients come to me could have been resolved with those proper business practices in the first place or free solutions. And I know that information is power, and there's a lot of bad information out there. And so it's not just a matter of Googling what best business practices there are. You need somebody that you can trust and who will be a resource. I'm putting myself out there as that person. Like I said, I want you to feel empowered when you leave here and not wiped out. So every 6 weeks, I'm covering things that you should think about to be able to make these best business practice decisions and to figure out what you need from a legal standpoint in your business. It's free and it explains the why. So please, if you have not already, check out my site at valeriedelgrosso.com. We just wrapped up a series called You Incorporated, which I'll touch on again in Myth 3. And I think that you'll find that information is definitely a different approach than anything else that you're seeing online, and hopefully you'll find it super useful in your own business. Again, I'm being a little sarcastic here, but myth number 2, if your clients stop paying, it's because you don't have a solid gold contract that costs $1,000 or more to draft. The reality is that is simply not true. So if you have bit the bullet and paid for an expensive customized contract with a lawyer, or spend $1,500 or more with a lawyer online for a bunch of templates to create your own, it's okay. I'm going to tell you though that there's one key thing that is missing. So I'm almost positive that in either one of these situations, your contract includes this smart provision that says, hey, I live in New York, but hey, client, you live in California. So if we have any kind of dispute, you're going to have to come to New York where I live and go to small claims court or arbitrate this dispute in New York because that's more convenient for me. And hey, that's perfect. Including something like that in a contract, your client's bound by it. So the reality is, though, in online business, the lifeblood and the big reason you get out of the bed in the morning, which is to collect those payments from your clients, is subject to what I call CMIYC. And if I'll give you a hint, it was a Leonardo DiCaprio movie a few years ago, and that's the phrase, catch me if you can. So you can definitely require a customer to be sued in your state, but you cannot collect in your state if your customer lives somewhere else. Instead, you have to take your piece of paper from the New York court and to a court in California and have it what's called domesticated. And then you have to hunt down the bank accounts and assets in the county in California or whatever other state where your client lives. So I bet that that sounds absolutely nothing like what you do for a living or intended to do in your business. And for you heart-centered entrepreneurs, I know that that just sounds awful. And also, if you're realizing that that sounds quite expensive, you're absolutely right. So I'm betting that whoever drafted that contract or whoever sold you those legal templates didn't tell you how to make use of that contract when it's crunch time, when you need to actually collect. And so you may have splurged on something that was presented as a solution, but in fact is just another piece of paper. And so going forward, when you do deal with a lawyer or a legal service provider, you want to ask the question, how do I use this if something goes wrong? Because that's where you're going to see the time and effort and expense that it's going to require. And from there, you can make decisions in your business practices to avoid that situation to begin with. So it goes without saying, and it's totally obvious, that in the online world, it's awesome. You get great customers the world over, but that there are logistical and practical trade-offs compared to doing business locally. And so in this situation, your business practices are key, and that should include accounting for deadbeats. They always cost more than you can ever get back from them. And if you don't believe me, you can look at the financial statements of some of the biggest companies in the world. They consistently, every quarter, are writing off anywhere between 1%, 3%, and 5% of all of their accounts, rather than spending the money to hunt these people down, even though those big companies have the resources to do it. So this is one place to be prepared in your business, because the one size fits all solid gold contract is just not practical for what a small business is going to need it for. I'm not saying that you don't want to have a contract at all. It's great to be super clear and upfront with what your payment policies are and what your customers can expect. But in terms of collection, you want to make arrangements in your business in the case that someone doesn't pay. So turning to our final myth, you have to get incorporated because you will definitely get sued. And this one is just no, a big no. So we recently finished up the You Incorporated series on my blog, which I mentioned, and this is always the first question that people ask me is, do I need to incorporate? Do I need to get an LLC? And the underlying reason for that question, I totally understand. People are worried about getting sued for millions of dollars that they don't have. And so I'm going to kind of be tongue-in-cheek here again, and I'll explain what I mean. But let me tell you, you should hope that if you get sued for something you don't have, because then you don't have to pay anything. The reality, though, is that lawsuits are rare. You hear all these crazy statistics about what a litigious society we live in, everyone's suing everybody, but in reality, the vast majority of cases are with insurance companies, big businesses, and a lot of criminal cases. So when you really look at the numbers, you're going to see that a small business like a coach, an artisan, a creative, these people are not often subject to lawsuits. And so if you have been ever worried about that, I hope that I can put you at ease a little bit about that. And in fact, getting sued doesn't mean that you're going to lose a lawsuit. And this is where the good business practices come into play. So even if in the rare circumstance you are sued and then you lose, it's key to know that your state is already providing you personally with some degree of protection. And I won't get into it too much, but this protection is in addition to the protection that a business entity like a corporation or LLC will provide. So please, if you haven't, go back and look at the posts in this series. It'll take you about 20 minutes and it will explain what type of protection your state gives you so that you can figure out if you need the additional protection of a business entity. What I really wanted to cover in this myth, though, is that a business entity is not foolproof. And once again, its effectiveness as a legal tool is going to come down to what your business practices are. So if you're treating the company like a piggy bank and mixing business and personal money and paying yourself before you pay creditors that your business owes money to, you're definitely jeopardizing your limited liability protection. So that's a big factor in why you would want to get a business entity. And it just doesn't make sense to pay big money to register it and to maintain it if you're unknowingly undoing its benefits with your business practices. And if that's the first time you're hearing that, I believe it, because there's not a lot of people out there and not a lot of services out there who let you know this before they encourage you to spend the money to get your business entity registered. So you're maybe thinking, okay, great. I get the point that I have to be super skeptical about what lawyers and legal services online are telling me. And I should be thinking about some unspecified best business practices that will save the day. But where the hell do I get this information? So I want to warn you right now, I am not a hard sell person. A hard sell is not on its way. And in fact, I'm going to specifically give you options to not spend money, because if that's what your budget calls for, that's what you need to do. So I don't know who else can help you answer those issues about the business practices and about being skeptical, except for myself. And so there's 3 ways that I personally can help. By signing up for this webinar, you have subscribed to my email list, and once a week you'll get a link. You'll get an email with a link to a post that'll take you 5 minutes or less to read. Please don't unsubscribe. I encourage you to take the time to read it. It will be valuable. It'll cut right to the chase. That's by design. Our next series is going to be on contracts with your clients and with your suppliers. It's all relevant topics in bite-sized and super impactful pieces, and that's free, and it will help you figure out the basics, and it will explain the why and the how to think about it. So that's a way to save, but still know that you're getting at least some coverage and taking certain actions in your business that will be effective from a legal standpoint. If you are at a point where you have a few bucks in your budget and you want to get to this good enough plus place with your legal, I'm going to be offering a series of guides over the next 6 months that pertain to each topic that matters to business owners, and we'll go over what those 6 topics are here in a minute. The guides will take you from the why that's explained in the blog post to the how to actually get it done. It has the step-by-step information. It has the things to look out for, the paperwork you'll need to keep and for how long. It'll tell you what to do next, and it will help you reevaluate your solution at different times in your business to see if it still applies. And finally, if you want to splurge, and I use that term loosely because I just found out that I'm charging a lot less than some of my colleagues in Las Vegas. If you're located in Nevada, do get in touch. I am licensed there. I can actually do the work for you. Later, I'll show you a review from a recent client that I'm proud of, and I'll let you know how you can get that exact same type of service if it's something that you don't want to handle yourself. So before we go on, as I mentioned, Avvo, I have a very good rating there. I am a featured business attorney there. I know you can't see my face right now, but you could probably hear how passionate I am about this stuff just in my voice. And I want to be clear that, again, this is my career. I will be around. So even if today is not the day you need me, I know that you'll remember this wild woman on the call who is recruiting people to stick it to the man and to be skeptical of just this legal information junk that's being pushed out to small business owners on a daily basis. And so if you look me up on social media, I am new to it, so I don't have likes, tons of likes and millions of followers and all of that, but I do have real client reviews on Avvo that I encourage you to go and look at. Some of my recent clients were men who sell wedding candy for buffets on Amazon, and so it's on Avvo, and you can go and see what they had to say about it. So if you are ready to look at the 6 topics in every business that you want to at least have considered touching on and protecting, we're going to talk about that now. And I have 2 things that I'm offering today. I'll make it quick so we can get to the questions and answers. So DIY Your Legal with Your Friend Who Is a Lawyer is my signature product, and it has 6 guides in it that touch on the 6 topics we're going to go over right now. The first one is called You Incorporated, and it's the continuation of the free blog series that has been appearing over the last 3 weeks. The You Incorporated guide is available on its own and for a special price. And if you think that we are lawyer and business owner soulmates, you can also today get the whole DIY Your Legal program with all 6 guides now also at a special price. Those 6 guides will be delivered over the next 6 or 7 months with a break in the middle for the holidays. And the reason for that is I want to make sure that it's a product that you have time to use and that does not cause any overwhelm in your business. My goal is not to stress you out any further, but to help you get your basics covered and move on so that you can work on what you love. So we'll talk first about You Incorporated. This guide is going to be delivered September 14th. It's $199 today, and it will return to full price of $349 on September 12th. It will be available year-round at the $349 price in case it doesn't work for you today. So I want to be perfectly clear here. When you register your business, there are going to be fees associated with it that are not included in the guide price. And so, for example, in Nevada, it's $425 a year to register your business. It's $325 a year to renew. In California, it's only $75 to register, but then there's a minimum business tax of $800 per year. So you want to be really careful if you go online to find out how much it is to register in your state, that you're accounting for any kind of minimum business tax or franchise tax, as it's sometimes called, that may be applied. So I want to be perfectly clear that the guide does not include the cost of registering, but instead it will help you streamline the process and make the most of your registration once you have it. So I've listed some dollar values next to the items that are included in this guide. These are prices that just in the last week or so I have seen offered online for these different services. And so LegalZoom, for example, will get your business registered for $149 plus the fees, but what they won't tell you is there are still going to be several documents that you have to figure out and file yourself. Otherwise, that initial registration will be canceled. So it is not worth the $149 to pay for it. Even if you don't buy my guide, it is so much more worth it to get on your state's division of corporations or whatever it may be called and sort through the paperwork yourself. The $149 and more on LegalZoom or Rocket Lawyer is just not going to get there. So my guide will also help you figure out if there are other state and local licenses you may need and how to get them. There's the step-by-step guide to getting an employer identification number, which is your business entity's own separate Social Security number. LegalZoom charges $79 for it. Don't pay that. That is just outrageous and a rip-off for what it is. There's a explanation of how to figure out what your annual record-keeping requirements are and how to get them done. That's something that lawyers charge anywhere from $100 or more per year to get done. You will figure out how to get super customized ones that you can update in just a few minutes every year to help ensure that you're following what are called your corporate formalities. And those formalities are what let you have the limited liability that is so special about a business entity. And learn which paperwork to keep and for how long. I know that business owners a lot of times feel buried in papers because they have this fear of needing this information at a later date and they don't want to be without it. So they keep everything. I will show you what to keep, how long, and for whom it needs to be kept. So that is $199 today, and I'm going to post the link below to the sales page for that, so you can take a look at more information. And if it's right for you, I would love to have you get it. Just make sure on PayPal that you insert the state where your business is located into the comments so that I can make sure all of your documents are tailored to your particular state. Part 2 of DIY Your Legal will be delivered October 15th, and so this is all about having Zen client and vendor relationships. We live in the era of damaging fine print. Everybody's gotten hip to the fact that if they, load up their contracts with a whole bunch of terrible provisions, they might have a chance of getting those enforced. And so I want to make sure that you know what to look for, and also to be able to use that information when you're crafting your client contract for your own customers. So the clients and vendors are sort of the two sides of the same coin, and this guide will explain how that is and how you can use the information that apply to either one to help you with both. So I should note that by vendors, I mean anyone who provides a product or service that you use to make good on your promises to your customers. So for example, in my business, that's Google lead pages, my stationery provider, my runner service, my malpractice insurance, and more. You can probably guess what those are and figure out what those are in your business using those examples. And if you're thinking that you don't have a ton of service providers, think back to all the times in your life where you've just hit accept terms without reading what was undoubtedly dozens of pages of what I call sign your life away. Rather than skipping it and hoping for the best, I'll show you what to zero in on how to keep track of it, and so that you can minimize nightmares that you might have in the future about that stuff with vendor contracts. So lawyers charge by the hour for this stuff, and in reality, business owners don't necessarily have the ability to change the terms because they don't have the ability to negotiate. And so I'll show you what to look for and how to live with those provisions. With that knowledge, you can make sure your existing client contract's up to snuff, and if not, how to get it there. With the understanding that legalese is not required. So if you do want the best in client contracts, I will include sample contracts in different industries that you can work from. I include a demand letter to encourage a customer to pay up. And this is, in my experience, in my best advice to you is the client contract is the heart and soul of your business. And this is the question you should be asking first. I include you incorporated first because that is usually higher up in business owners' minds as the priority. But if you don't have a client contract, I encourage you to get one soon. And it's as simple as just specifying and writing exactly what your client can expect from you and exactly what you expect from him or her in return. So this guide, again, will be delivered after 6 free blog posts to help you get on your way for those of you who don't have the budget right now to get the guide. If you do have it, I encourage you to get it now because it is a great deal that's being offered as part of DIY Your Legal for all 6 guides at once. So part 3 of the guide is to protect your assets even if you don't think you have any. I know this one kind of kills me. It's like everybody knows that they should have some kind of estate plan, but no one wants to think about dying, and so instead they don't do anything. But that's really not what it's about. It's about making sure your people are taken care of and the people that you care about specifically, and that your clients aren't left in the dust if something does happen to you, knock on wood. So it's not about the money. It's about access, and it's about caring for the people that matter to you. If you do have the money, yeah, it can be about protecting the money and making sure, it goes where you want it to as well. So my guide is going to make it as simple as possible, and it will follow, again, 6 free blog posts that I like to refer to as lunch break estate planning that will appear on my blog. So the part 3 Protect Your Assets guide will be delivered November 16th. We're going to be taking a break after that and doing a business resolutions challenge in December. This will be waiting in your inbox after the holidays, so you have time to protect the loved ones that you'll have just spent all this time with. And you'll be in the right mindset to get that stuff protected so that at the start of the year, you can start working on something that's extra super important for online business owners. And that's part 4, which is delivered February 8th. And so the question I ask business owners a lot is, are you selling your service but giving away your business model? And a lot of times, and a lot of the material that's presented online is all about protecting your images, your name, the words and phrases you use that have value, so that other people do not steal them or pass them off as their own. And I do want that to be protected, and this part 4 guide does cover that. But there's also an extra element, which is when you work with people, especially for you coaches who work closely one-on-one with people, those people are seeing the details of your business model and the way that you are able to be successful in coaching people, and they're seeing it up close and personally. And if you do your job, they're going to feel so empowered that they're going to think that this stuff is just, they can do it. They can turn around and teach someone else just as well as you taught them. And I have seen it twice just this year alone. And so this guide gets you covered, like I mentioned, in the traditional ways, but it also helps you get the most out of protecting your actual business model. And there's not a lot of other people out there who are doing it and who are presenting this information. In fact, I have not found anyone yet, but I hold it open just in case. Maybe there are other people, none that I'm aware of. So I'm telling you, this guide alone is worth the price tag for DIY Your Legal. I'm seeing lawyers charge $1,000 and more just to get a single trademark registered. And so this is super important in the era where it's very easy for people to steal your images, your name, your phrases, and most importantly, and most expensively, your business model. So that'll again be delivered February 8th, 2016. So it gets you to a strong start in the beginning of the year with protecting your business. Part 5 of DIY Your Legal is all about being a boss, and it covers employees, independent contractors, and interns. And this is a sticky subject that can get really detailed and really confusing fast. If you've ever done any kind of research online, you'll see that it just is an extremely complicated area. So this simplifies it here and shows you what red flags you need to look out for that will trigger you hiring a lawyer, that will tell you, okay, it is time to go and get some professional help. This goes beyond the basics. So I'll give you my favorite resources for getting all of your reporting taken care of so you can sleep at night on these issues knowing that you're compliant. There's some classifications, snafus, I call them, with the IRS that can cost big money and that you may be making without having any intention of doing anything wrong. And so we'll make sure that you're not making those. Finally, if you use interns, the law is changing fast and you need to know about that. So I will include information on interns and what you need to know about them so that you can stay out of trouble with those. And finally, part 6 is that ugly 5-letter word, taxes. I didn't mean to have this launch during tax season, but the schedule just worked out that way, and I think you'll be happy about it. Nobody likes taxes, not only because they cost money, but they are intentionally confusing. And so if you've been following along with my blog posts over the last 3 weeks, you'll have seen that I pointed out that the tax code is more than 70,000 pages long. And that really only covers 1 or 2 of the 6 types of taxes out there. Super annoying, super complicated. And so this guide will take a look at the 6 types of taxes that are out there. It will help you determine which ones apply to you. And then we'll boil it right down to help you figure out what you need to do, what papers you need to keep, and the best resources for making sure you're compliant. I'll touch on some of the changes that are happening in sales tax collection for you Amazon sellers. That's a big topic with all of their warehouses around the country. I also have a lawyer friend who will join us for a special session on tax resolution in case any of you have some skeletons in your closet. And also it'll just shed some light on what happens when the IRS says, hey, you're doing something wrong, you need to fix it. So that call alone is worth a few $100s. I promise you'll be blown away by him. And I really look forward to being able to offer that. So you should be seeing a link at the bottom of the page that will take you to the sales page. It will summarize again. You'll have the $199 guide available there, sort of in the middle of the page. The button for DIY Your Legal is at the very bottom. It's $699 for all 6 guides. And if you were looking for a sign to get the legal done in your business, this is it. As I mentioned, it's going to be available year-round. The price will increase on September 12th. The DIY Your Legal is going to be over $1,000. And I just want to reiterate that these 6 legal guides are packed with all of these kinds of tips and information that I gave you today from that perspective that most lawyers are not willing to share because it costs them money. It's backed by 7 years of experience as a lawyer with all of the lessons that I've learned as a side hustler myself. It's less than $116.50 each, which sounds too cheap even as I'm saying it, because I just paid $127 for a course on how to use Instagram. So it's worth it if you're ready. I don't want you to buy it if you're not ready to commit to it or your business can't pay for this, because like I mentioned, I don't want to be another source of stress. If you are going to be stressed, I would rather have you go to a local lawyer, get out your credit card, and pay a lot of money, because then at least the local lawyer will do the work for you, whereas I can only walk you through how to do it and what to think about because I'm not licensed in your state. So for those of you who are on the fence about it, I will also offer a one-on-one 30-minute call with me to discuss any kind of questions you have in your business as you go through the guides for anyone who signs up as a result of this webinar, as a way of saying thanks for taking the time out to be here. If you decide that you hate the first guide or that you hate me, just let me know, and there will be a no questions asked return of your money, and you can keep the first guide, and I'll return either your $199 or your $699, depending on which program that you bought. So without any further ado, let's turn to the questions and answers. I have listed 3 ways for you to get in touch with me in the event that I don't get to your question today. And the first question is, how much does it cost to register a business? Okay, so as I mentioned, it's there's kind of two ways to think about the cost of registering a business. There's the actual formation documents, which, for example, for a corporation is called the Articles of Incorporation. There's usually a fee associated with that. In some states, like Nevada, you cannot just register a business. You also have to get your state business license at the same time, which is an additional cost. So it depends is the answer, and I know nobody likes to hear that from a lawyer, but a quick Google search for things like name registration, cost to register a corporation or LLC, minimum business tax, and business licensing cost will give you the numbers that can help you start figuring out whether your business registration is actually affordable, whether now is the time to do it. Okay, the next question is the fee one time? So most states know you have to pay a renewal fee every year. It's usually not as much as the initial cost to register. I mentioned in Nevada, it's $425 to get your business started, but it's $325 each year to keep it going. So you want to account for that. You also want to account for the fact that, let's say you go into business for a year and you decide, this isn't really working for me. I'm going to shut it down. There's usually a small fee associated with formally dissolving the business, and that is something that you want to do. You don't want to leave it sitting out there and expiring or going defunct. You want to take that step. In Nevada, it's $60. It's well worth the fee. Okay, so the next question, do the guides provide the services for me? Okay, so no, again, I'm licensed only in Nevada. Which means that I cannot provide legal advice or legal services to residents of other states. I can only provide the information that will help you answer the questions to figure out what you need and then go ahead and actually get that done by yourself. And so the best way to think about these guides is as a hybrid approach. It's getting it done yourself with the guidance of a lawyer. All right, and the next question is that I mentioned that LegalZoom doesn't do it all. Why not? That's a good question. I'm not really sure why they do not make the effort to file all of the paperwork for you. I guess maybe they're taking a technical standpoint and saying, hey, technically your business will be on the records of your state secretary by paying us $150 and filing one of the 3 documents that are required. To me, that seems a little shady. I think that they need to at least make it more clear that there are other document requirements. And from what I can tell in walking through the steps on LegalZoom, they do not do that. So there was actually a point where I considered in my guide including a link to LegalZoom to have them do the work for you, even with a little fee attached to it, but honestly, it's just not worth doing that. They just don't follow through all the way for you. And by the time you figure out what else you need, you could have just filed that first document by yourself. So LegalZoom, it is great for things like wills and certain business documents and templates, but in terms of getting your business registered, I don't really recommend spending the money on LegalZoom. Okay, and it looks like that's the last question. Unless anyone has any others, we will wrap it up. Thank you again so much for joining me on this call. I know it's lunch break for you here on the East Coast and it's early on the West Coast. Feel free always to get in touch. I hope that you will consider me a resource when you have legal questions. I'm always happy to help business owners, and so please take me up on that. Thank you.